7 Habits of Wealthy People. A Money Mastery Audiobook. Welcome to 7 Habits of Wealthy People, a Money Mastery audiobook designed to help you understand the behaviors, decisions, and patterns that can shape your financial future. Wealth is rarely created by one lucky opportunity, one enormous paycheck, or one perfect investment. More often, it is built quietly through habits repeated over years. Before we begin, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Money Mastery Audiobooks, and stay with us until the very end, because the final habit may change the way you think about every financial decision you make. In this audiobook, we are going to explore 7 habits that financially successful people use to build, protect, and grow wealth. These habits are not reserved for millionaires. They are behaviors that ordinary people can begin practicing regardless of where they are starting financially. So, if you are ready to stop simply earning money and start thinking differently about building wealth, let's begin 7 Habits of Wealthy People. Introduction. 7 Habits of Wealthy People. Wealth is often misunderstood. Many people believe becoming wealthy begins with earning a large salary, starting a successful business, receiving an inheritance, or discovering the perfect investment. But income is only one part of the equation. 2 people can earn the same amount of money and end up in completely different financial positions because they make different decisions with what they earn. Wealth is not simply about how much money comes into your life. It is about what you consistently do with that money once it arrives. The habits you practice repeatedly can shape your financial future more powerfully than occasional bursts of motivation. Someone can receive a substantial increase in income and still remain financially stressed if their spending rises just as quickly. Another person can begin with a modest income, develop disciplined financial habits, save consistently, invest patiently, increase their skills, and gradually build assets. The difference is not always the amount of money they started with. Often, it is the system they created and followed over time. This is why earning money and building wealth are 2 different things. Earning money gives you resources. Building wealth means converting some of those resources into savings, investments, businesses, property, skills, and other productive assets that can create value in the future. A high income can make wealth building easier, but it does not guarantee wealth. Without discipline, even substantial income can disappear through lifestyle inflation, unnecessary debt, impulsive spending, and poor financial decisions. Wealthy people tend to think differently about money because they understand that every financial decision has consequences beyond today. They consider opportunity cost. They think about what their money could become if it were saved or invested instead of immediately spent. They think about time, because time cannot be recovered. They think about learning because better knowledge can improve better decisions. They think about risk because protecting what they build is just as important as growing it. Most importantly, they understand that wealth is usually a long-term process. This does not mean wealthy people never spend money, enjoy life, or make mistakes. Building wealth is not about living miserably or refusing yourself everything you enjoy. It is about making intentional choices. There is a major difference between spending because you genuinely value something and spending simply because you want to appear successful. There is also a difference between taking calculated risks to create opportunities and making reckless financial decisions because you are impatient for quick results. The 7 habits we are about to explore are built around this idea. First, wealthy people learn to pay themselves first, making saving and investing a priority rather than an afterthought. Second, they learn to live below their means, creating a financial margin between what they earn and what they spend. Third, they invest consistently so their money has the opportunity to grow over time. Fourth, they protect their time because they understand that time is one of their most valuable assets. Fifth, wealthy people keep learning. They understand that financial education, valuable skills, and better decision-making can increase their ability to create and protect wealth. Sixth, they work toward creating multiple sources of income, reducing their dependence on a single source and gradually building greater financial resilience. And seventh, they think long-term. They understand delayed gratification and recognize that many of the greatest financial rewards come from decisions whose benefits may not become visible for years. None of these habits requires you to become wealthy before you begin practicing them. In fact, the opposite is true. You practice them because you want to become financially stronger. You start with the resources you have, make better decisions with those resources, and improve as your circumstances change. So as you listen to this audiobook, do not simply ask yourself whether wealthy people behave this way. Ask yourself a more important question: which of these habits can I begin practicing today? Because wealth is rarely built in one dramatic moment. It is built through ordinary decisions repeated consistently. One saved dollar becomes a habit. One investment becomes a portfolio. One skill becomes greater earning power. One disciplined decision becomes a pattern. And eventually, those patterns can produce results that once seemed impossible. With that foundation in mind, let us begin with the first habit: wealthy people pay themselves first. Chapter 1. Wealthy people pay themselves first. One of the most powerful financial habits you can develop is learning to pay yourself first. The principle is simple: before your money disappears into bills, entertainment, subscriptions, shopping, or other expenses, you deliberately set aside a portion for your own financial future. Instead of treating saving as something you do with whatever happens to remain at the end of the month, you make it one of the first financial decisions you make. This small change can completely alter the way you manage money. Many people follow the opposite pattern. They receive their income, pay their bills, spend on the things they need and want, and then look at what remains. If there is something left, they save it. If there is nothing left, they tell themselves they will save next month. The problem is that there will almost always be another expense waiting. A birthday, repair, dinner, unexpected bill, new device, holiday, or tempting purchase can quickly consume whatever money might have been saved. Saving what is left over makes your financial future dependent on chance. Paying yourself first changes the order. When your income arrives, you immediately direct a predetermined portion toward savings, investments, or another clearly defined financial goal. You are essentially telling your money where it needs to go before the rest of the world gets an opportunity to claim it. This does not mean ignoring your responsibilities or refusing to pay necessary expenses. It means recognizing that your future deserves to be treated as a financial priority rather than an afterthought. Imagine someone earning the equivalent of $3,000 a month. Instead of waiting until the end of the month to see whether anything remains, that person could automatically direct $300 into a separate savings or investment account when the income arrives. The remaining $2,700 becomes the amount available for expenses and lifestyle choices. The important lesson is not the exact percentage or currency amount. The important lesson is that saving happens first and spending adjusts around the decision. For someone starting with a smaller income, the amount may be much lower. Perhaps it is $25, $50, or $100 from each paycheck. What matters initially is not creating a perfect savings rate. What matters is creating the habit. As income increases, the amount can increase as well. A person who develops the discipline to consistently keep part of their income can eventually build a meaningful financial reserve. The habit becomes more powerful as the person's earning ability grows. One of the first priorities should usually be establishing an emergency fund. Life does not always follow your financial plan. Vehicles break down. Appliances fail. Work situations change. Unexpected expenses appear. Without savings, these events can force people to rely on credit cards, loans, or other expensive forms of debt. An emergency fund creates a financial buffer between an unexpected event and a financial crisis. It gives you breathing room and reduces the likelihood that one problem will create several more. Once an appropriate emergency reserve is established, the concept of paying yourself first can expand toward long-term investing and wealth creation. This is where the habit becomes more than simply putting money aside. Your savings can eventually become capital. Capital can be used to acquire productive assets, invest in businesses, purchase investments, develop valuable skills, or pursue carefully considered opportunities. The objective is not to accumulate money endlessly in an account. The objective is to build financial resources that can eventually help create more financial resources. This habit also creates something that money alone cannot provide: control. When you consistently save and build financial reserves, you become less dependent on your next paycheck. You have more options when unexpected situations arise. You can make decisions with greater confidence because you are not constantly operating from financial desperation. Over time, this financial margin can become one of the most valuable assets you possess. Paying yourself first also requires understanding the difference between saving and spending restraint. You do not need to eliminate every enjoyable experience from your life. You need to decide what matters most. If you automatically save part of your income, you can then spend the remainder without constantly wondering whether you should have saved something instead. The system creates boundaries. You know what is available for today and what has already been protected for tomorrow. Technology can make this habit easier. Automatic transfers can move money into a separate savings or investment account shortly after your income arrives. This reduces the number of decisions you have to make every month. You do not have to repeatedly rely on willpower. The system does the first step for you. As your financial situation changes, you can review and adjust the amount, but the fundamental habit remains the same. There will also be months when things do not go according to plan. Perhaps an unexpected expense forces you to reduce your savings temporarily. That does not mean the habit has failed. Financial discipline is not about achieving perfection every single month. It is about returning to the system when circumstances stabilize. The person who saves consistently over years will usually be in a very different financial position from the person who repeatedly intends to save someday. Ultimately, paying yourself first is a statement about priorities. It says that your future matters. It says that every dollar you earn does not have to be consumed immediately. It says that some of today's income can become tomorrow's security, opportunity, and wealth. The amount may begin small, but the principle is powerful: protect a portion of what you earn before you spend the rest. Wealthy people understand that wealth is not created simply by making money. It is created by retaining some of that money and putting it to productive use. When you pay yourself first, you begin building the foundation for that process. You create savings, develop discipline, build capital, and gradually give yourself more financial choices. The goal is not to become obsessed with saving every possible dollar. The goal is to make sure that your entire income does not disappear into the present. A portion should serve your future. A portion should strengthen your financial position. And eventually, that portion can become the seed from which larger wealth grows. The first habit, therefore, is simple but transformative: when money comes in, do not let everything flow outward. Keep a portion. Protect it. Build with it. Invest it when appropriate. Let it become part of the financial future you are creating. Because before you can build wealth, you must first learn to keep some of what you earn. Chapter 2. Wealthy people live below their means. There is a major difference between looking wealthy and actually being wealthy. Looking wealthy is often about what people can see: an expensive vehicle, designer clothing, a large house, luxury vacations, or the latest technology. Actual wealth is different. True financial strength is often invisible. It can exist in investment accounts, businesses, property, savings, and other assets that may never attract attention from strangers. Wealthy people understand that appearances do not build financial security. Financial decisions do. One of the most important decisions is learning to live below your means. This simply means spending less than you earn and protecting the difference. That difference becomes your financial margin. It gives you room to save, invest, handle emergencies, pursue opportunities, and make decisions without constantly being pushed to the edge of your income. Without that margin, even a substantial salary can disappear as quickly as it arrives. Consider what happens when someone's income increases. Instead of keeping their lifestyle relatively stable and directing some of the additional money toward investments or savings, they immediately upgrade everything. A more expensive car leads to higher insurance and maintenance costs. A larger home brings larger payments and utility bills. More expensive restaurants, clothing, travel, subscriptions, and entertainment gradually become normal. Soon, the person earns more but has not actually become financially stronger. This is lifestyle inflation. Lifestyle inflation is dangerous because it can happen so gradually that you barely notice it. You receive a raise and celebrate. You earn a bonus and reward yourself. Your business performs better, so you upgrade your lifestyle. None of these individual decisions necessarily seems unreasonable. The problem occurs when every increase in income becomes an excuse to increase spending. If your expenses always rise alongside your income, you can spend decades earning more without building meaningful wealth. Wealthy people are not necessarily wealthy because they refuse to spend money. They are wealthy because they understand what their spending is accomplishing. Before making a significant purchase, they consider whether it genuinely improves their life or simply provides temporary excitement, convenience, or social status. They understand that every dollar spent on something unimportant is a dollar that cannot simultaneously be saved, invested, or used to create another opportunity. This is where conscious spending becomes important. Instead of asking only, "Can I afford this?" a stronger question is, "Does this purchase fit the financial life I am trying to build?" You might technically be able to afford something and still decide not to buy it. You might choose a reliable vehicle instead of an expensive one. You might live in a comfortable home without choosing the most expensive property the bank says you qualify for. Financial independence often comes from knowing when enough is enough. Living below your means also requires distinguishing between needs, wants, and status purchases. Needs are expenses required for basic living and responsibilities. Wants can improve your comfort or enjoyment but are not essential. Status purchases are often motivated by how you want other people to perceive you. The categories can overlap, but recognizing the difference gives you greater control. When you understand why you are spending, you become less vulnerable to advertising, social pressure, and the desire to keep up with people around you. Another important part of this habit is managing consumer debt carefully. Borrowing can sometimes serve a useful purpose, but unnecessary high-cost debt can consume future income before you even receive it. Credit cards, personal loans, and other forms of consumer borrowing can make today's lifestyle dependent on tomorrow's earnings. Interest then becomes an expense that produces nothing for you. Instead of your money building your future, part of your future income is being used to pay for decisions from your past. Imagine two people who both receive an increase in income. The first immediately spends nearly all of the increase. The second keeps their existing lifestyle and directs a significant portion of the additional income toward savings and investments. After several years, the difference can become enormous. The first person may have enjoyed a more expensive lifestyle along the way, while the second person has accumulated capital. That capital can potentially grow, generate income, and create opportunities. This does not mean you should never improve your lifestyle. There is nothing wrong with enjoying the rewards of increased income. The key is making sure lifestyle improvements happen intentionally rather than automatically. If your income rises by 20%, you do not have to increase your expenses by 20%. You could increase your lifestyle modestly while directing the remaining increase toward your financial goals. This allows you to enjoy progress while continuing to build financial strength. Living below your means also provides something incredibly valuable: flexibility. When your monthly expenses are comfortably below your income, you have more choices. You may be able to leave a job that is no longer suitable. You may have the ability to invest when an opportunity appears. You may be able to handle an unexpected expense without borrowing. You may have the freedom to spend time developing a business or learning a new skill. Financial margin creates options. There is also a psychological benefit. Constantly spending everything you earn can create a permanent feeling of financial pressure. Every month becomes another race to receive income before the bills arrive. But when you consistently maintain a gap between income and expenses, that pressure can begin to decrease. You know that not every dollar has already been assigned to a bill or purchase. You have breathing room. And breathing room can lead to better financial decisions. The goal of living below your means is therefore not deprivation. It is freedom. It is not about refusing yourself every pleasure or living a miserable life while waiting for some distant future. It is about refusing to sacrifice your long-term financial security simply to maintain an image today. You can enjoy your money while still respecting it. You can spend intentionally while protecting your future. You can have a comfortable life without turning every increase in income into an increase in financial obligations. Ultimately, wealth requires a gap between what you earn and what you consume. That gap is where financial progress begins. It can become savings, investments, business capital, property, education, or opportunities. The larger and more consistently protected that gap becomes, the more possibilities you create for yourself. The wealthy mindset is not, how much can I afford to spend? It is, how much can I keep, grow, and put to productive use while still enjoying the life I value? That question changes everything. Because looking wealthy requires money to leave your hands. Building wealth requires learning how to keep some of it. Chapter 3. Wealthy people invest consistently. Saving money is an important foundation for financial security, but saving alone may not be enough to build substantial long-term wealth. Money sitting in a basic account can provide stability and liquidity, but investing gives your capital the opportunity to participate in economic growth. Wealthy people understand this distinction. They do not simply ask, how much money can I save? They also ask, how can I put some of this money to productive use so it has the potential to grow over time? Investing is not about finding one magical opportunity that will make you rich overnight. In fact, that mindset can be dangerous. Successful long-term investing is usually built around consistency, patience, discipline, and an understanding of risk. Instead of constantly searching for the next big winner, financially successful people often focus on creating a repeatable system. They contribute regularly, choose investments appropriate for their goals and risk tolerance, and allow time to do much of the heavy lifting. One of the most powerful ideas in investing is compound growth. Compounding occurs when your investment earnings are reinvested and begin generating potential returns of their own. Over long periods, this can create a snowball effect. At first, the progress may appear slow. The early stages can feel almost insignificant. But as contributions and potential returns accumulate, the size of the investment base can grow, giving future growth more capital to work with. Consider someone who invests a consistent amount every month. In the beginning, most of the account's growth may come from their own contributions. Over time, however, investment returns can become an increasingly meaningful part of the overall balance. This is why starting early can be so valuable. You are not simply investing money, you are giving that money more time to potentially compound. Time becomes an ally, and consistency becomes the engine driving the process forward. This is also why trying to perfectly time the market can become a distraction. Markets rise and fall. Economic conditions change. News creates excitement and fear. Prices move unpredictably in the short term. Someone waiting for the perfect moment may remain on the sidelines for years. A consistent approach does not eliminate investment risk, but it can reduce the temptation to make emotional decisions based on every market movement. Consistency does not mean blindly investing in anything regardless of its quality. You still need to understand what you are buying and why you own it. An investment should have a purpose within your broader financial plan. Before investing, consider factors such as your goals, time horizon, risk tolerance, liquidity needs, and level of knowledge. The goal is not simply to put money somewhere. The goal is to allocate capital thoughtfully. There are many different ways people can invest. Some invest in publicly traded companies through stocks or diversified funds. Others invest in real estate, businesses, bonds, or other assets. Entrepreneurs may reinvest profits into their own companies to expand operations and create additional value. The appropriate choices vary from person to person and depend on circumstances, objectives, and risk. There is no universal investment strategy that is perfect for everyone. Diversification is another important principle. Concentrating your entire financial future in one investment can expose you to significant risk if that investment performs poorly. Diversification spreads exposure across different investments or asset categories. It does not guarantee profits or eliminate losses, but it can help reduce the impact of a single poor-performing asset on an overall portfolio. Wealthy investors generally understand that protecting capital matters just as much as seeking growth. Risk management is therefore a central part of intelligent investing. High potential returns often come with higher risks, and an investment that promises extraordinary returns with little or no risk should immediately deserve careful scrutiny. Financial markets contain legitimate opportunities, but they also contain speculation, scams, excessive fees, and investments that people do not fully understand. The ability to say, "I don't understand this investment well enough," can protect you from costly mistakes. Another important principle is separating investing from gambling. Gambling generally depends on uncertain outcomes where the odds are structured against the participant. Investing, when approached responsibly, involves allocating capital toward assets or enterprises that can potentially generate value, income, or growth. The difference is important. Investing should be based on analysis, purpose, risk management, and a suitable time horizon rather than excitement or the hope of getting rich quickly. Imagine someone who receives an additional amount of income each month. They could spend all of it, or they could decide to consistently direct a portion toward investments. 1 month might not make a noticeable difference. 1 year may produce modest progress. But over many years, regular contributions can become substantial, especially when investment returns are reinvested. The power comes from repetition. One investment is an event. Consistent investing becomes a system. This system also changes your relationship with market volatility. When you understand that investing is a long-term process, temporary declines can be viewed differently. A market downturn may be uncomfortable, but it does not automatically mean that a long-term strategy has failed. At the same time, long-term thinking does not mean ignoring genuine problems with an investment. You still need to review your strategy and make informed decisions when circumstances change. Patience is essential because wealth rarely compounds on a convenient schedule. People often want visible results immediately. They invest today and expect meaningful wealth tomorrow. But productive assets generally require time. A business needs time to grow. Property may appreciate over years. A diversified portfolio needs time for contributions and potential returns to accumulate. The investor who understands this is less likely to abandon a sound strategy simply because the early results appear slow. Consistent investing also creates a powerful financial identity. When investing becomes a normal part of your financial routine, you stop viewing it as something you might do if you have extra money. It becomes one of the purposes for which you earn money. You are no longer only working to pay today's expenses. You are also directing a portion of today's income toward creating future possibilities. Of course, investing should not come before every other financial priority. High-interest debt, inadequate emergency savings, and unstable finances may need attention first. The point is to build a sensible financial foundation and then consistently put appropriate capital to work. Your investment strategy should support your broader financial plan rather than becoming a substitute for one. Ultimately, wealthy people understand that money has a job. Some money pays for today's necessities. Some protects against emergencies. Some can be used for enjoyment. And some can be invested to potentially create future wealth. The key is assigning money intentionally rather than allowing every dollar to disappear into immediate consumption. The third habit is therefore not simply, invest. It is invest consistently and intelligently over time. Learn what you own. Understand the risks. Diversify where appropriate. Avoid emotional decisions. Keep contributing according to your plan. Give your investments time to work. Because wealth is rarely created by one extraordinary investment. More often, it is built through ordinary investments made repeatedly, patiently, and with discipline. When you consistently put productive capital to work, you stop depending entirely on your labor to create your financial future. Your money begins participating in the process. And that is one of the most important transitions on the journey from simply earning income to building lasting wealth. Chapter 4. Wealthy people protect their time. Money is valuable, but there is another form of wealth that is even more limited: time. You can earn more money, replace money, invest money, and potentially multiply money, but you cannot create another hour. Every person receives the same basic amount of time each day, yet people use that time very differently. Wealthy people understand this. They do not simply ask how to make more money. They also ask how to make better use of the limited time available to them. This is why protecting your time is an important wealth-building habit. Your time is connected to your ability to earn, learn, build relationships, develop businesses, solve problems, and create opportunities. When your time is constantly consumed by low-value activities, you have less time available for activities that could improve your financial position. Time management is therefore not simply about having a neat schedule. It is about deciding what deserves your limited attention. Many people confuse being busy with being productive. A person can spend 12 hours moving from one task to another and still accomplish very little that meaningfully changes their life. They may answer endless messages, scroll through social media, attend unnecessary meetings, repeatedly check notifications, or spend hours on activities that create little value. At the end of the day, they feel exhausted because they were busy, but exhaustion is not proof of progress. Wealthy people tend to become increasingly selective about how they spend their time. They understand that every yes is also a no to something else. If you spend 3 hours on an activity that provides little value, those are 3 hours that cannot simultaneously be used to develop a skill, serve a customer, build a business, study an investment, exercise, spend time with family, or simply recover. Protecting your time means recognizing the opportunity cost attached to your daily choices. One of the first steps is learning to prioritize. Not every task deserves equal attention. Some activities are urgent but not particularly important. Others may not feel urgent but can have enormous long-term consequences. Building a valuable skill may not produce immediate results, but it can increase your earning potential over several years. Investing time in relationships may not create an immediate financial return, but strong relationships can become one of the most valuable parts of a successful life. Wealthy people also learn to identify their highest value activities. For an entrepreneur, that might mean developing products, acquiring customers, improving systems, or making strategic decisions. For an employee, it might involve developing specialized skills, solving important problems, or taking on responsibilities that increase their value within an organization. The exact activities vary, but the principle remains the same: spend more time doing work that produces meaningful results and less time doing work that simply keeps you occupied. Another important concept is delegation. As your responsibilities increase, attempting to do everything yourself can become a serious limitation. Delegation does not necessarily mean hiring a large team or spending enormous amounts of money. It can begin with identifying repetitive tasks that consume time without requiring your personal involvement. When appropriate, systems, technology, automation, or other people can handle certain responsibilities while you focus on areas where your attention creates greater value. Of course, not everything should be measured by financial return. This is an important distinction. Protecting your time does not mean turning every minute of your life into a business opportunity. Rest has value. Family has value. Friendship has value. Health has value. Recreation has value. A wealthy life is not simply a life where every hour is monetized. The goal is to have greater control over your time so that you can deliberately spend it on what matters most. Time also has a direct relationship with earning potential. When you invest time in developing valuable skills, you can potentially increase the value you provide in the marketplace. A person who spends years improving their communication, sales, technology, leadership, financial knowledge, or professional expertise may eventually become capable of earning significantly more than they could before. The investment is made with time first. The financial benefit may appear later. The same principle applies to building a business. Businesses rarely become successful because someone worked randomly for a large number of hours. They become successful by solving problems, serving customers, improving operations, creating systems, and making effective decisions. A business owner who constantly performs low-value tasks may remain trapped inside the business. A business owner who gradually builds systems can create something that operates more efficiently without requiring every minute of their personal attention. Protecting your time also means learning when to say no. This can be difficult because many opportunities initially look attractive. Someone may invite you into a project. Another person may ask for your help. A new idea may demand your attention. A social event may consume an entire evening. None of these things is automatically bad, but you cannot pursue everything. If you constantly say yes to other people's priorities, you may eventually have no time left for your own. Your digital environment deserves attention as well. Phones, notifications, entertainment platforms, and social media can consume enormous amounts of time because they are designed to keep your attention. You may intend to check something for 5 minutes and discover that an hour has disappeared. Protecting your time requires awareness. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Create periods of focused work. Decide when you will check messages. Do not allow every incoming alert to become an instruction about what you should do next. Another powerful habit is planning your important work before the day becomes chaotic. When you begin a day without priorities, the most urgent or distracting thing often captures your attention first. A simple plan can change that. Identify the few activities that matter most and give them dedicated time. The objective is not to create a perfect schedule. It is to make sure your most important responsibilities do not consistently lose to distractions. Time protection also means recognizing the value of focus. Constantly switching between tasks can reduce the quality of your work and increase the amount of time required to complete it. When possible, concentrate on one meaningful task at a time. Give it your full attention, finish it, and then move to the next priority. Focus allows your limited hours to produce more meaningful results. Eventually, the connection between time and financial freedom becomes clear. The purpose of building wealth is not simply to accumulate a larger number in an account. Money can provide choices. It can reduce financial pressure and give you greater control over how you use your time. If you build enough financial stability and productive assets, you may eventually have more freedom to decide what work you do, where you live, how you spend your days, and which opportunities you pursue. This is why wealthy people protect their time. They understand that money can be replaced, but time cannot. They know that the hours they spend today are helping create the life they will experience tomorrow. They prioritize valuable activities, eliminate unnecessary distractions, delegate when appropriate, develop skills, build systems, and make room for the people and experiences that matter. You do not need to control every minute of your life to begin. Start by asking a simple question: where is my time going, and is it helping me build the life I actually want? Your answer may reveal opportunities that money alone could never create. Because building wealth is not only about gaining more money. It is about eventually gaining more control over the most limited resource you will ever possess, your time. Chapter 5. Wealthy people keep learning. Wealthy people understand that financial education does not have a finish line. Earning more money can improve your financial position, but knowing how to manage, protect, and grow that money is equally important. The world constantly changes. Industries change, technology changes, markets change, businesses rise and fall, and new opportunities appear. People who stop learning can eventually find themselves making decisions based on information that is no longer relevant. Learning is therefore not something wealthy people do only when they have a financial problem. It becomes part of their lifestyle. They read, study, ask questions, listen to experienced people, examine businesses, understand investments, and develop skills that make them more valuable. They remain curious because they understand that knowledge can improve the quality of their decisions. Better decisions, repeated consistently, can have enormous financial consequences over a lifetime. Financial education also goes beyond learning how to invest. It includes understanding income, expenses, debt, taxes, insurance, business structures, contracts, markets, negotiation, and risk. You do not need to become an expert in every financial subject, but you should understand enough to make responsible decisions and recognize when professional guidance is necessary. The more you understand, the less likely you are to blindly depend on someone else to make every important financial decision for you. One of the most valuable areas of learning is developing skills that increase your earning potential. Financial wealth begins with resources, and your ability to create income is one of the most important resources you possess. Communication, sales, leadership, technology, management, problem-solving, writing, negotiation, and specialized professional skills can all become valuable in the marketplace. When you improve your abilities, you may create opportunities to earn more, negotiate better compensation, start a business, or provide greater value. But consuming information is not the same as learning. You can watch hundreds of financial videos, read dozens of books, listen to countless podcasts, and still make exactly the same decisions you made before. Information only becomes useful when it changes what you understand or how you behave. Wealthy people tend to turn knowledge into action. They learn a principle, test it, evaluate the results, and refine their approach. The goal is not to know everything. The goal is to become better at making decisions. This distinction is especially important in investing. Reading about an investment is not the same as understanding it. Seeing someone online claim that an asset will rise in value does not mean you understand the risks involved. Learning requires asking better questions. How does the investment create value? What could cause it to lose money? What fees are involved? How liquid is it? What is the time horizon? What assumptions are being made? The more important the financial decision, the more important it becomes to understand what you are actually doing. Learning from mistakes is another habit that separates growth from stagnation. Everyone makes financial mistakes. You may overspend, choose the wrong investment, underestimate an expense, trust the wrong person, take on unnecessary debt, or miss an opportunity. The mistake itself does not have to define you. The important question is what you learn from it. A mistake that teaches you a valuable lesson can become expensive education, but repeating the same mistake without reflection becomes a pattern. Wealthy people also understand the value of learning from other people's experiences. You do not have to personally make every mistake before you learn the lesson. Books, mentors, experienced professionals, case studies, biographies, business histories, and credible educational resources can provide insights that would otherwise take years to discover. Learning from others allows you to borrow experience. You can study what worked, examine what failed, and use those lessons to make more informed decisions in your own life. Curiosity is particularly powerful because it prevents financial complacency. Someone may become successful and assume they already know enough. But success can create its own risks. Markets change. Businesses evolve. New technologies disrupt industries. Regulations change. Consumer behavior shifts. A strategy that worked perfectly in one environment may become less effective in another. Staying curious encourages you to continue asking whether your assumptions are still accurate. Learning also improves your ability to recognize opportunities. Opportunities are not always obvious. A person with no knowledge of a particular industry may see a complicated problem and walk away. Someone with experience may see the same problem and recognize a potential business opportunity. Education expands the number of things you can understand. The more you know about markets, people, technology, business, and finance, the more possibilities you may be able to identify. However, learning should not become an excuse for endless preparation. Some people consume information forever because taking action feels risky. They tell themselves they need another book, another course, another video, or another expert before they can begin. There comes a point when knowledge must become action. You can learn the basics of budgeting and then create a budget. You can study investing and then develop an appropriate investment plan. You can learn a business skill and then use it to serve a real customer. A practical approach is to create a regular learning routine. You might spend a small amount of time each day reading about finance, business, economics, investing, or your profession. You might listen to educational material while commuting or exercising. You could dedicate one evening each week to developing a valuable skill. The exact routine is less important than consistency. A small amount of focused learning repeated over years can produce a significant difference. You should also learn from your own financial numbers. Your budget is a source of information. Your investment statements contain information. Your business results contain information. Your income growth tells you something. Your spending patterns tell you something. Instead of avoiding these numbers, study them. Ask what they reveal about your behavior. Where is money being wasted? What is working? What could be improved? What opportunities are being overlooked? The fifth habit is therefore about developing a mindset of continuous improvement. Wealthy people do not assume that financial success means they have nothing left to learn. They recognize that every new level of responsibility requires new knowledge. Managing a small amount of money requires certain skills. Managing a large investment portfolio, business, or organization may require an entirely different level of understanding. The goal is not to become obsessed with financial information. The goal is to become more capable. Learn enough to ask intelligent questions. Learn enough to recognize risks. Learn enough to identify opportunities. Learn enough to understand your own numbers. Learn enough to know when you need expert help. And most importantly, learn enough to take better action. Because your knowledge can become one of the most valuable assets you ever build. Money can be lost. Businesses can fail. Investments can decline. But the lessons you genuinely absorb can remain with you and influence every financial decision that follows. Wealthy people keep learning because they understand something simple: your financial future is influenced by the quality of the decisions you make, and the quality of your decisions is influenced by what you know. The more you learn, the more capable you become. The more capable you become, the more valuable opportunities you may be able to create and recognize. And when learning becomes a lifelong habit, your ability to build wealth can continue developing long after your first financial success. Chapter 6. Wealthy people create multiple sources of income. Depending entirely on one source of income can create financial vulnerability. For many people, that source is a salary or wage from a single employer. As long as the income continues, everything appears stable. But if the job disappears, hours are reduced, the industry changes, or circumstances force a career transition, the entire financial structure can suddenly come under pressure. Wealthy people understand this risk, which is why they gradually work toward creating multiple sources of income. Multiple income streams do not mean chasing every opportunity that appears online. In fact, trying to create 10 different income streams at once can create confusion, wasted time, and financial losses. The smarter approach is to build one reliable income source first, strengthen it, and then gradually add additional sources that complement your skills, resources, and long-term goals. The objective is not complexity. The objective is resilience, flexibility, and eventually greater financial independence. Your first income stream is often active income. This is money you receive because you provide your time, skills, or labor. It can come from employment, freelancing, consulting, professional services, sales, or operating a business. Active income is extremely important because it provides the resources you can use to save, invest, and build additional assets. Increasing your ability to earn active income can therefore become the foundation for creating other sources of wealth. The next step is learning how to turn some of your active income into assets that can potentially generate additional income. Investments are one example. A portfolio of productive assets may generate returns or income over time. Real estate can potentially generate rental income and appreciate in value, although it also carries costs and risks. A business can generate profits beyond the direct hours of its owner. Intellectual property, such as books, music, software, or other creative work, can potentially produce royalties or licensing income. The important distinction is between income and assets. If you constantly exchange your time for money, there is a limit to how much you can earn because your time is limited. Assets can potentially continue producing value beyond the specific moment when you create or acquire them. This does not mean assets produce effortless or guaranteed income. They often require capital, maintenance, management, and risk. But building productive assets can gradually reduce your dependence on trading every hour directly for income. Imagine someone with a full-time job who earns a stable income. Instead of immediately attempting 5 businesses, they begin by improving their professional skills and increasing their primary earning power. Once their finances are stronger, they consistently invest part of their income. Later, they might develop a small business based on an existing skill. Eventually, those investments and business activities could become additional sources of income. The process is gradual, but each step creates another layer of financial strength. Another powerful source of additional income is developing skills that people are willing to pay for. Sales, marketing, design, programming, writing, consulting, teaching, editing, management, and specialized technical abilities can all create opportunities. A valuable skill can be used in employment, freelancing, consulting, entrepreneurship, or other forms of work. This is why learning and income diversification are connected. The more valuable capabilities you develop, the more ways you may have to create income. However, there is a danger in becoming obsessed with the idea of passive income. Online conversations often make passive income sound effortless. In reality, many income-producing assets require substantial work before they begin producing meaningful results. A business needs customers. A rental property needs management and maintenance. A book needs to be written, edited, published, and marketed. Investments require capital and carry risk. The phrase, passive income, should never be confused with free money. The better way to think about additional income is leverage. You are looking for ways to use your existing skills, capital, knowledge, relationships, technology, or systems to create more value. A business owner might build a system that allows employees to handle repetitive responsibilities. An author might create a book that can be sold repeatedly. An investor might allocate capital to productive assets. A skilled professional might turn expertise into consulting services. The specific method varies, but leverage is the underlying principle. Diversification can also provide greater financial resilience. If one source temporarily declines, another may continue operating. This does not eliminate financial risk, but it can reduce dependence on one particular source. A person with employment income and investments has a different financial structure from someone who depends entirely on one paycheck. A business owner with several products may have greater resilience than one whose entire revenue depends on a single customer. Still, multiple income streams should be built carefully. Each additional activity consumes some combination of time, money, attention, and management. If you add too many projects before your foundation is strong, you can weaken everything. You might spread your attention so thinly that none of the opportunities receives enough effort to become successful. Wealthy people often understand that focus comes before diversification. Build something reliable first. Then expand intelligently. One useful question is, can this income source eventually become more efficient or scalable? If earning more requires exactly the same increase in your personal hours, your income may remain tightly connected to your time. But if you can create systems, products, processes, or assets that allow revenue to grow without requiring an identical increase in your personal effort, you may be creating leverage. Technology has expanded the number of ways people can create additional income, but technology does not remove the need for value. A digital product, online service, educational program, software application, or content business can reach many people, but customers still need a reason to pay. The strongest income streams are usually connected to solving real problems, satisfying genuine needs, or providing something people value. There is also a psychological advantage to building additional income. It can change the way you think about your career. Instead of believing your financial future depends entirely on one employer, you begin developing capabilities and assets that belong to you. You become more proactive. You start looking for opportunities to create value rather than waiting for someone else to increase your income. Over time, the objective is not necessarily to have dozens of income streams. The objective is to build a financial structure where your income is supported by multiple productive sources. Your career can provide active income. Your investments can provide potential growth or income. A business can generate profits. Intellectual property can produce royalties. Skills can create consulting or freelance opportunities. Each component can strengthen the overall structure. The sixth habit is therefore about creating financial resilience through diversification, but doing so intelligently. Start with your strongest source of income. Improve it. Save and invest consistently. Develop valuable skills. Build assets. Then gradually add income sources that make sense for your circumstances. Do not chase every promise of easy money. Do not assume every opportunity is worth pursuing. Do not confuse activity with progress. Build carefully, focus on value, and give each new income source enough time and attention to become established. Because financial freedom becomes more achievable when your entire future does not depend on a single source of income. The goal is not simply to earn more money today. The goal is to gradually create a financial system in which your skills, businesses, investments, and assets can work together to create greater opportunity tomorrow. Chapter 7. Wealthy people think long-term. Wealth is rarely created through one brilliant decision. More often, it is created through thousands of ordinary decisions made with the future in mind. Wealthy people understand that the financial choices they make today can influence the opportunities available to them years from now. Instead of asking only, "What do I want right now?" they also ask, "What will this decision mean for my future?" That question changes everything. Long-term thinking begins with delayed gratification. Delayed gratification means being willing to sacrifice something today in order to create something more valuable tomorrow. It might mean saving instead of spending, investing instead of consuming, learning instead of constantly entertaining yourself, or building a business before expecting immediate rewards. This does not mean refusing to enjoy life. It means understanding that every financial decision has a consequence, and some rewards become greater when you are willing to wait. Consider the difference between two people who receive an unexpected amount of money. One immediately spends it on things that provide temporary excitement. The other considers how the money could improve their financial position. Perhaps they strengthen their emergency savings, reduce expensive debt, invest a portion, or use some of the capital to develop a valuable skill or business opportunity. The difference is not necessarily the amount of money they received. The difference is how they think about tomorrow. Long-term thinking is particularly powerful when it comes to investing. Markets can rise and fall. Businesses can experience difficult periods. Economic conditions can change. If you constantly react emotionally to every short-term movement, you may make decisions that damage your long-term strategy. Wealthy investors understand that building wealth often requires patience. They focus on owning productive assets, managing risk, staying diversified when appropriate, and allowing time to work rather than constantly searching for instant results. Compound growth is another reason patience matters. Money that remains invested and continues generating returns can potentially create growth on previous growth. The longer the process continues, the more significant the effect can become. This is why starting early and remaining consistent can matter so much. You do not need every year to produce spectacular results. You need a disciplined process that can continue through different seasons of the economy and different stages of your life. Long-term thinking also changes how you approach your career. Someone focused only on immediate income might constantly chase the next paycheck without developing deeper expertise. Someone thinking strategically may accept that learning a valuable skill today could increase their earning potential for many years. They might invest time in education, develop professional relationships, improve communication, learn technology, or build leadership abilities. The goal is not simply to earn more this month. It is to become more valuable over time. The same principle applies to business. Building a successful business rarely happens overnight. Customers need to discover you. Products need improvement. Systems need to be developed. Reputation needs to be earned. Mistakes need to be corrected. A long-term entrepreneur understands that temporary setbacks do not automatically mean the entire vision has failed. They evaluate what happened, learn from the experience, adjust the strategy, and continue moving forward. Long-term thinking can also protect you from financial decisions driven by emotion. When people feel pressure, they often look for immediate solutions. They may borrow unnecessarily, make impulsive purchases, chase risky opportunities, or abandon a sensible plan because the results are not appearing quickly enough. Financial pressure is real, but reacting emotionally can sometimes create even greater problems. Long-term thinking encourages you to pause, examine the consequences, and choose the decision that strengthens your future position. This habit also changes how wealthy people view relationships and reputation. Trust can take years to build and moments to destroy. Someone who thinks long-term understands that opportunities often come through relationships developed over time. They treat people fairly, keep their commitments, communicate honestly, and protect their reputation. They understand that money is not the only form of capital. Knowledge, trust, credibility, skills, relationships, and reputation can all become valuable forms of long-term capital. Long-term thinking also requires accepting that progress will sometimes be invisible. You may save money for months without feeling significantly wealthier. You may invest regularly while markets fluctuate. You may spend years developing a business before it reaches its potential. You may study a skill without immediately receiving financial rewards. During these periods, discipline becomes more important than motivation. You have to trust the process while remaining willing to evaluate and improve it. This is why wealthy people tend to measure progress differently from people focused entirely on immediate results. Instead of asking only whether they made more money this month, they may ask whether their savings increased, whether their investments became stronger, whether their skills improved, whether their business became more efficient, or whether their financial decisions reduced unnecessary risk. They understand that small improvements can become significant when repeated consistently. Long-term thinking also gives you permission to say no. Every opportunity has a cost. Every purchase uses resources that could have been directed somewhere else. Every commitment consumes time. When you understand your long-term priorities, you become more selective. You do not need to participate in every trend, buy everything advertised to you, or chase every opportunity promising quick money. You can focus your resources on the things most likely to move you toward your chosen financial future. Think about the 7 habits we have explored throughout this audiobook. Paying yourself first gives you capital. Living below your means creates financial margin. Investing consistently puts capital to work. Protecting your time allows you to focus on valuable activities. Continuing to learn increases your knowledge and potential earning power. Creating multiple sources of income strengthens your financial structure. And thinking long-term gives all of these habits direction. None of these habits works through one dramatic action. Their power comes from repetition. Saving once does not create financial security. Investing once does not create lasting wealth. Learning one financial concept does not make you financially educated. Protecting your time for one afternoon does not transform your life. Building wealth happens when these behaviors become part of the way you operate consistently, especially when nobody is watching and the results are not immediately visible. The wealthy mindset is therefore not simply about wanting more money. It is about understanding consequences, valuing time, controlling behavior, and making decisions that give your future self greater opportunities. Wealthy people recognize that the future is being created by today's actions. Every dollar saved, every skill developed, every investment made, every unnecessary expense avoided, and every hour used wisely can become part of a larger financial story. You do not need to predict exactly what the future will look like. You simply need to make decisions that increase your ability to handle it. Build savings. Invest responsibly. Learn continuously. Develop valuable skills. Strengthen relationships. Protect your time. Create productive assets. Avoid unnecessary financial risks. Then give your efforts enough time to produce results. That is the power of thinking long-term. Wealth is not built by constantly asking what can make you rich immediately. It is built by asking what can make you stronger, wiser, more capable, and financially secure over the years ahead. When you combine that mindset with the other 6 habits, you create something far more powerful than a collection of financial tips. You create a complete philosophy for building wealth: control your money, control your choices, invest in your future, and remain patient enough to allow disciplined decisions to compound over time. Conclusion. You have now explored 7 habits that can completely change the way you approach money, wealth, and your future. The first habit is to pay yourself first. Before your income disappears into bills, entertainment, and unnecessary purchases, direct a portion toward your own financial future. Saving and investing consistently creates capital, and capital gives you options. The goal is not simply to accumulate money, but to build a foundation that can eventually help your money produce more money. The second habit is to live below your means. Wealth is not determined by how expensive your lifestyle looks from the outside. Someone can drive an expensive car, wear expensive clothes, and still be financially fragile. Another person can live modestly while quietly building substantial assets. Living below your means creates financial margin, and that margin gives you the ability to save, invest, handle unexpected expenses, and take advantage of opportunities when they appear. The third habit is to invest consistently. Saving provides security and liquidity, but investing gives your capital the opportunity to grow over time. Whether you invest through businesses, stocks, real estate, or other productive assets, the principle remains the same: understand what you own, manage risk responsibly, and give your investments enough time to work. Wealth is rarely created by constantly chasing the next opportunity. It is more often built through disciplined participation over many years. The fourth habit is to protect your time. Money can potentially be earned again, but time that has passed cannot be recovered. Wealthy people understand that their attention is valuable. They prioritize activities that create meaningful results, eliminate unnecessary distractions, and use systems or delegation when appropriate. The purpose of building wealth is not simply to have a larger bank balance. Ultimately, financial success should give you greater control over how you spend your most valuable resource, your time. The fifth habit is to keep learning. Financial education does not end when you reach a certain income or net worth. Markets change. Businesses change. Technology changes. Opportunities change. Your own circumstances change. The person who continues learning can continue adapting. Study money, investing, business, taxes, economics, communication, sales, and valuable skills. But remember that information only becomes powerful when you apply it. Knowledge sitting unused in your mind cannot transform your financial life. The sixth habit is to create multiple sources of income. Depending completely on one paycheck can leave you vulnerable. Building additional income through businesses, investments, valuable skills, intellectual property, or other legitimate opportunities can strengthen your financial position. But do not fall into the trap of chasing every possible income stream. Build one strong foundation first, then expand deliberately. The goal is not to create chaos. The goal is to gradually create a financial system with greater resilience and opportunity. Finally, the seventh habit is to think long-term. This habit connects everything else. Paying yourself first requires thinking about tomorrow. Living below your means requires resisting unnecessary short-term consumption. Investing requires patience. Protecting your time requires knowing what matters in the future. Learning requires accepting that improvement takes time. Building multiple income streams requires persistence. Wealth grows when you stop demanding immediate results from every decision and start making choices that strengthen your future. The most important lesson is that wealth is not usually created through one extraordinary financial breakthrough. It is created through ordinary behaviors repeated consistently. One saved dollar may seem insignificant. One investment may seem small. 1 hour spent learning may seem unimportant. One unnecessary purchase avoided may seem meaningless. But when these decisions are repeated for years, they can create results that are dramatically different from the results produced by inconsistent financial behavior. You do not need to master all 7 habits tomorrow. Start with 1. If your finances are disorganized, begin by paying yourself first. If spending is consuming your income, focus on living below your means. If your money is sitting idle for long-term goals, learn about responsible investing. If your days are filled with low-value activities, protect your time. If your knowledge is limited, commit to learning. If your income depends on one source, explore a realistic additional opportunity. And if you are constantly looking for quick results, begin thinking longer term. Your financial future is not something that simply happens to you. It is influenced by the decisions you make repeatedly. You cannot control every economic event, market movement, employer decision, or unexpected circumstance. But you can control many of your habits. You can control how you respond to money. You can decide what percentage of your income you save. You can choose whether to learn. You can decide what deserves your time. You can choose whether to build assets or constantly consume. So do not finish this audiobook by simply feeling inspired. Finish it with a decision. Choose one habit and put it into practice. Then repeat it. Give it time. Strengthen it. Eventually, one habit can become a system can become a lifestyle, and a lifestyle can change your financial future. Wealth is built one decision at a time. Thank you for listening to 7 Habits of Wealthy People, a Money Mastery Audiobook. But before you move on to the next video, remember this: listening to financial knowledge is only the beginning. The real transformation happens when you take what you have learned and turn it into action. Your habits will always speak louder than your intentions. Choose one habit today. Pay yourself first. Spend intentionally. Invest consistently. Protect your time. Keep learning. Build additional income. Think long-term. You do not need to become financially perfect overnight. You simply need to become more disciplined with each decision. If this audiobook gave you something valuable, like this video, subscribe to Money Mastery Audiobooks, and turn on notifications so you do not miss future audiobooks designed to help you improve your financial knowledge and mindset. Remember, wealth is not built by luck alone. It is built through disciplined habits, intelligent decisions, patience, and consistency. Build the habits today that your future self will thank you for tomorrow.